Historical background. Because many topics discussed in various fields have lost their true place over time and have been replaced by newer issues and concerns. Undoubtedly, modern medicine is not only very different from ancient Greek and medieval medicine, but also the advancements and issues addressed in today's medicine are incomparable to a quarter century ago. For this reason, there is no necessity for medical students to delve into the study of medical history. However, in the midst of this, there are certain sciences, especially in the field of humanities, where the history of those sciences serves as an introduction and prerequisite for studying them. For example, the history of philosophy is nothing but philosophy itself, and studying it is necessary and inevitable. Now the question arises, why is there a need to study the history of psychology? Undoubtedly, there is a deep connection between what was discussed in the philosophical system of psychology and what is currently being addressed in modern psychology. Today, the realm of psychology has been divided into smaller territories. Clearly, understanding such branching and multiplicity of modern psychology would not be possible without studying the history of psychology. In other words, the history of psychology explains its current position. On the other hand, perhaps one can search for one of the reasons psychologists are interested in studying philosophical psychology in this matter, as despite the differences in methods, the questions raised in both the philosophical and modern systems of psychology still share a great deal of similarity. Many of the questions raised in the minds of Greek philosophers and medieval thinkers still occupy the minds of psychologists today. For this reason, if we cannot speak about the continuity of methods in the realm of psychology, at least we can speak about the continuity of questions. Although some psychologists consider the need to study the history of psychology as self-evident, and argue that studying the history of psychology does not require defense. Therefore, we will have a brief look at ancient Greek and medieval psychology. Since the time when humans discovered the power of logical thinking, they have constantly posed themselves as an unsolvable mystery. To solve such a mystery, they first turned to supernatural and mysterious causes and factors, and sought the assistance of divine entities in solving this puzzle. Justifying the phenomenon of life through the intervention of the souls of gods in human bodies is a clear example of the attempt to find an answer to this mystery. In ancient Greece, the minds of philosophers also became aware of the complex nature of human beings and sought to explain it. The value and significance of certain theories proposed by these philosophers in that era still remain strong today. Of medicine, and an Egyptian sorcerer devoted himself to the visitation, examination, and treatment of individuals while they were asleep. Based on this belief, the early Greek hospitals took the initiative to treat patients using fortune tellers and priests. In this regard, Hippocrates considered it the earliest form of known healing. In fact, according to Hippocrates, superstitions, religious healing practices, and beliefs form the roots of what we now know as psychotherapy. Astrologers, sorcerers, and magicians in Egypt, Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome believed in the effectiveness of magic spells, the power of potions, and religious rituals. And even today, separating people from spiritual and physical healing is not feasible. In fact, one could even argue that it constitutes a combination of superstitions and magic, forming the basis of psychotherapy. Hippocrates distinguished between various forms of madness. He believed that different types of treatments existed based on this distinction. During that time, the Greeks and Romans classified and treated severely mentally ill patients, providing extensive treatment methods such as work, musical exercises, dietary regimens, as well as the use of laxatives and bloodletting. Galen writes Hippocrates was an individual who separated medicine from philosophy. In ancient texts or manuscripts, countless examples of physical and mental illnesses and their diagnoses can be seen, which were attributed to sins and considered to be treated through the intervention of priests or religious ceremonies. Ernest Jones examined many routes and histories of psychotherapy and referred to some forms of early treatments, including introspection, which involved spending time exploring thoughts, imaginations, and dreams. According to Jones, primitive forms of hypnotism and telepathy, as well as pharmacological treatments, could be considered useful. He also highlights rational therapies, the practical applications of herbal medicine, and prescribed changes in lifestyle in ancient cultures. From Liberia to northern Scotland, psychotherapy is a philosophical name that Jones uses for methods of mental reflection and training, such as yoga and Zen Buddhism, which are prevalent in the East. In the Western world, various philosophical schools, Pythagorean, Platonic, Stoic, Epicurean, have also offered systematic approaches to life. A noteworthy example is Galen, who presents self-control methods based on the principles of Stoic philosophy and recommends personal counseling. Galen, in his book Mistakes of the Soul, distinguishes between rational and emotional errors, believes that our inclination towards various therapeutic schools in modern times bears a resemblance to the philosophical schools of ancient Greece. The views on human behavior can be traced back to the Greek philosophers. Round 490 to 435 BCE, Empedocles believed that the world consists of four elements: water, air, earth, and fire. Socrates 355 to 435 BCE interpreted these elements as four qualities and temperaments of individuals, believing that the state and mood of people depend on the balance between these four qualities. The theory of Hippocrates, known as the father of medicine, regarding the four temperaments influenced by the theory of the four elements by Empedocles, is considered by some psychologists today as the foundation of personality organization. The opinions of Plato and Aristotle about the nature of consciousness, whether humans are inherently rational or irrational, and the existence of free will, are still relevant questions in psychology today. According to some psychologists, Aristotle's studies on understanding human behavior can be considered as the first scientific steps in this field. Ancient Greek scholars predominantly approached the study of human psychology with philosophical and rational methods, rather than empirical and observational approaches. About 2,500 years ago, it was believed that all beings in the world, including humans, are composed of the four elements: water, fire, earth, and air. After that, Hippocrates introduced the concept of the four humors: phlegmatic, sanguine, melancholic, and choleric. He believed that the dominance of each of these humors in the body leads to different psychological states in humans. And Asia, beliefs also took their place in natural perspectives. The Greeks, since the time of Hippocrates, established a system of medicine based on the theory of humors, which aims to restore the balance of humors within the body. Similar theories were also discussed in China and India. In ancient Greece, from the time of Galen to the Renaissance, the foundation of medicine was based on maintaining health through dietary control and hygiene. Anatomical knowledge was limited, and surgical methods and treatments were scarce. Physicians relied on good relationships with their patients to practice their craft. Hippocrates, known as the father of medicine, was one of the first individuals to describe many diseases and medical conditions. He provided the first description of clubbing, the enlargement of the fingertips, which is an important diagnostic sign of chronic lung diseases, lung cancer, and cyanotic heart diseases. Hence, sometimes the clubbed fingers are referred to as Hippocratic fingers. Hippocrates was the first physician to classify diseases into acute, chronic, endemic, and epidemic categories, and he is considered the first documented thoracic surgeon. After Pythagoras, Plato 347 to 427 BCE addressed the relationship between the body and the mind. According to him, the body and the mind are two distinct and independent entities. The soul or mind is a spiritual and eternal being, while the body is a material and perishable entity. Aristotle, a disciple of Plato, disagreed with his teacher on the separation of the soul and the body. He believed that the soul and the body are two inseparable and unified entities, and one cannot exist or be complete without the other, as they are mutually dependent. Plato divided natural causes into two categories: inherent entities and concepts derived from observations of living organisms through the senses.